The empty blackness of space stretched out before Captain Ji-ho Park as he stood on the bridge of his ship, the KSS Dauntless. His eyes were tired, and his uniform was dirty after days without rest. The ship floated quietly in the shadow of Neptune, the big blue planet hiding them from enemy eyes. Earth had fallen 3 weeks ago. Ji-ho still couldn't believe it. The aliens called the Voidborn had come without warning. They had destroyed most of Earth's cities in just 2 days. Now they were attacking all human bases across the solar system one by one. "Captain, the ship's systems report is ready," said Lieutenant Hanuel, a young woman with short black hair and steady hands. She handed him a small screen. Ji-ho read the report and felt his heart sink. The numbers were bad. Very bad. Life support. At 42%, he read aloud. Weapons at 36%, shields at 17%. He looked up at his crew. 10 men and women watched him with tired but trusting eyes. They were the last of his original crew of 50. "The Voidborn ships are coming from Saturn's direction," Hanuel added quietly. "Their main ship will be here in about 3 hours. Ji-ho nodded and walked to the large window at the front of the bridge. Far in the distance, he could see the faint outline of another ship, the KSS Perilous. It was the only other Korean warship still working. The rest of Earth's fleet was gone. The Perilous was special. It carried a new, untested weapon called the Stellar Fold Drive. Scientists had been working on it in secret for years. Now it might be humanity's last hope. "Any word from Captain Song?" Ji-ho asked. Communications Officer Ju-won shook his head. "No, sir. The Perilous is keeping radio silence as we agreed." Ji-ho understood. They couldn't risk the Voidborn hearing their plans. But he wished he could talk to Taeyang Song, the captain of the Perilous. They had a complicated history. Once rivals at the Space Academy, now they might be the last 2 ship captains alive from Earth. Ji-ho turned as the door to the bridge slid open. Medical Officer Yoon-ji walked in, her face grim. "How are the injured?" Ji-ho asked. "I've done what I can," Yoon-ji replied. "But we're almost out of medicine, and the radiation leak on Deck C is getting worse." Before Ji-ho could respond, Ju-won suddenly sat up straight at his station. "Captain, I'm getting a signal," he said, his voice rising, with excitement. "It's from the moon, from the hidden bunker at Tycho Crater." Hope flared in Ji-ho's chest. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. The face of Admiral Kim appeared, an old man with deep lines on his face. Behind him, Ji-ho could see what looked like a command center, but with damaged walls and emergency lights flashing. "Captain Park," the Admiral said, his voice crackling through static. "I don't have much time. The Voidborn have found our location." "Sir, what's the situation on the moon?" Ji-ho asked. "We are the last military command post," Admiral Kim replied. "Mars colony has gone silent. The Jupiter stations too. You and the Perilous are all that's left of our fleet." The bridge went quiet. Everyone had known things were bad, but hearing it confirmed made it real. "Sir, what are your orders?" Ji-ho asked, straightening his back. Admiral Kim looked directly into the camera. "I am activating Protocol Omega." Ji-ho felt his blood run cold. Protocol Omega was the last resort plan. It meant the normal chain of command was gone. It meant they were authorized to use any means necessary to fight back, no matter the risk. It meant the Admiralty believed Earth was already lost. "Understood." "Admiral," Ji-ho said, keeping his voice steady for his crew. "The Stellar Fold Drive on the Perilous is our final option," Admiral Kim continued. "Captain Song has the activation codes, but the drive needs time to power up. You must protect them during that time." "We will, sir." The Admiral looked like he wanted to say more, but suddenly there was a loud explosion on his end. The screen shook and shouting could be heard in the background. "They're here," the Admiral said calmly. "Good luck, Captain Park. Remember Earth." The screen went black. Silence fell over the bridge of the Dauntless. Ji-ho looked at his crew. They had all heard. They all understood what it meant. "Ju-won, send a message to the Perilous," Ji-ho ordered. "Text only, tight beam. Tell Captain Song it's time for the final plan." "Yes, sir." Juwan said, his fingers already moving across his screen. Jiho turned to his navigation officer, Sunmi, a tall woman who had lost her family when Seoul was destroyed. Plot a course that will put us between the Voidborn fleet and the Perilous. That will expose us to their full attack, Sunmi said quietly. I know, Jiho replied. That's the point. We need to draw their fire. Weapons Officer Daeho stepped forward. Sir, with our shields at just 17%, we won't last long against their main ship. We don't need to last long, Jiho said. We just need to last long enough. He pressed a button on the arm of his captain's chair, activating the ship-wide communication system. Attention all crew members of the KSS Dauntless, he began. By now you've all heard that Earth has fallen. You know that our ship is damaged. What you may not know is that we are now one of only 2 military ships left in the entire solar system. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. The KSS Perilous carries a weapon that might, just might, turn the tide against the Voidborn. But they need time to activate it. Our job is to give them that time. Jiho looked around at his bridge crew. They were scared, but he also saw determination in their eyes. I won't lie to you. This mission will likely be our last. But if we succeed, humanity has a chance. Not just to survive, but someday to take back our home. Each of you has family and friends who were on Earth. This is for them. Engineering Officer Minho's voice came through the speaker. Engine room is ready, Captain. We've rerouted emergency power to the weapons and shields. Good, Jiho said. Prepare for battle stations in 1 hour. As the crew moved to their positions, Hanyul approached Jiho privately. Sir, do you really think the stellar fold drive will work? It's never been tested at full power. Jiho looked at the distant shape of the Perilous through the window. I don't know, he admitted. But right now, hope is all we have, and I trust Taeyang despite our past differences. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Daeho called out from his station. Captain, sensors detect multiple Voidborn ships entering our space. They're coming faster than we expected. They must have picked up the Admiral's transmission to us, Jiho said grimly. Juwan, tell the Perilous the enemy is here early. Sir, Sunmi called out, her voice tight with fear but controlled. Look at the sensor readings. There are more ships than we thought, much more. Jiho looked at the display and felt his heart sink. Dozens of enemy ships were approaching, maybe hundreds. It doesn't change anything, he said firmly. Our mission remains the same. He sat in his captain's chair and buckled the safety straps. All hands to battle stations, shields up, weapons hot. As the crew rushed to their positions, Jiho looked one last time at the image of the Perilous on his screen. Good luck, old rival, he whispered. The fate of our people is in your hands now. Captain Taeyang Song stood alone in his private quarters aboard the KSS Perilous. The room was small, with just a bed, a desk, and a small window looking out into the blackness of space. On his desk sat an old photo in a simple frame. It showed a younger Taeyang standing next to Jiho Park at their Space Academy graduation, both smiling stiffly. That was 10 years ago. Before they became rivals. Before the Voidborn came. Taeyang picked up the photo and looked at it closely. Who would have thought it would come to this, he said to himself. The ship's communication system buzzed. Captain, said the voice of his first officer. We've received a message from the Dauntless. Text only. Tight beam. I'll be right there, Taeyang replied, putting down the photo. He walked quickly through the narrow hallways of the Perilous. Unlike the Dauntless, which was built as a warship, the Perilous had been a science vessel until 6 months ago. That's when they installed the experimental stellar fold drive. Now the ship was part warship, part science experiment. Taeyang reached the bridge and nodded to his crew. What's the message? First Officer Kyung-soon handed him a tablet. The message was short. Protocol Omega activated. Admiral Kim confirms. Final plan is go. Enemy approaching early. Prepare the drive. We will protect you. Taeyang read the message twice, then looked up at his crew. 6 faces looked back at him, waiting for orders. So it's come to this, he said quietly. Admiral Kim has activated Protocol Omega. The bridge. Crew exchanged nervous glances. They all knew what Protocol Omega meant. Is Earth really lost? Asked Navigator Junseo, the youngest member of the crew. Yes. Tai Yang answered honestly. And according to this message, we are now executing the final plan. The Dauntless will protect us while we activate the stellar fold drive. He turned to Engineer Mirai, a woman with tired eyes and quick hands. How long will the drive need? To power up? Mirai had helped design the experimental drive. She knew its strengths and flaws better than anyone. At least 30 minutes for full power, Captain. Maybe longer. The Dauntless won't last 30 minutes against the main Voidborn ship, said Security Officer Hyunwoo, a tall man with a scar across his chin. They know that. Tae-yang said simply. Ji-ho knows that. The bridge fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. The dauntless crew was planning to sacrifice themselves to give the perilous time. Tae-yang pressed a button on the captain's chair. All hands, this is the captain. Report to emergency stations, we are activating the stellar fold drive. He turned to Communications Officer Jinnah. Send a message to the Dauntless. Tell them we're beginning the power-up sequence now. The next few minutes were a blur of activity as the crew prepared the ship. Tae-yang walked to the rear of the bridge where Science Officer Do-hyun was working at a special console installed just for the stellar fold drive. Will it work? Tae-yang asked quietly, so only Do-hyun could hear. Do-hyun looked up, his face serious. In theory, yes. The drive creates a bubble of distorted spacetime. If it works as designed, it will either destroy the Voidborn ships or send them somewhere else, far away. And if it doesn't work as designed, Do-hyun hesitated. Then it might tear a hole in spacetime. It could destroy everything nearby, including us. Tae-yang nodded. He had known the risks when they installed the drive. Begin the power-up sequence. As Do-hyun turned to his console, the ship's alarm suddenly blared. Captain, called Navigator Junseo. Multiple Voidborn ships detected. They're coming from behind Saturn. On the main screen, Tae-yang could see dozens of enemy ships appearing. They were small and fast like dark insects against the stars, and behind them, larger and slower, came the main Voidborn command ship. It was huge, at least 5 times the size of either Korean vessel. Where's the Dauntless? Tae-yang asked. Here, they come, said First Officer Kyung-soon, pointing to another part of the screen. The Dauntless was moving out from behind Neptune, its engines glowing brightly. It was heading directly toward the approaching Voidborn fleet. They're putting themselves between us and the enemy, said Security Officer Hyunwoo with respect in his voice. Tae-yang watched as the Dauntless began firing its weapons. Bright beams of energy shot out from the Korean ship, hitting the first line of Voidborn vessels. 2 enemy ships exploded, but there were so many more coming. How long until the drive is ready? Tae-yang asked. 28 minutes to full power, Mirai replied, her fingers moving quickly over her control panel. On the screen, they could see the Dauntless was now under heavy attack. The smaller Voidborn ships were circling it, firing constantly. The Dauntless's shields flared with each hit, growing weaker. They won't last 5 minutes, let alone 28, Hyunwoo said. Tae-yang watched as his old rival fought bravely against impossible odds. Ji-ho was a brilliant tactical commander. The Dauntless spun and weaved, taking down several more enemy ships despite being heavily damaged. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Dauntless, Jinnah said suddenly. Audio only. Put it through, Tae-yang ordered. Ji-ho's voice filled the bridge, calm despite the sounds of battle in the background. Perilous, this is Dauntless. How much longer do you need? Tae-yang looked at Mirai, who mouthed, 25 minutes. We need at least 25 more minutes, Ji-ho, Tae-yang replied. There was a pause, then Ji-ho's voice came back. Understood. We'll buy you as much time as we can, but there's something else you should know. We're picking up readings from the Voidborn command ship. They seem to be charging some kind of main weapon. The transmission crackled with static, then Ji-ho continued. If that weapon fires, neither of our ships will survive. You need to move. The Perilous behind Triton. Triton was Neptune's largest moon. Tae-yang understood the plan immediately. You want us to hide while you keep fighting? I can't ask your crew to do that. You're not asking, I'm telling, Jiho replied, his voice firm. The stellar fold drive is more important than either of our ships. It's humanity's last hope, Tae-yang. You know this. On the screen, Tae-yang could see the Dauntless take a direct hit. Part of its hull began to glow red from the damage. Captain, First Officer Kyung-soon said quietly to Tae-yang. He's right, we need to protect the drive. Tae-yang closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with new resolve. Navigator, set course for Triton. We'll hide behind the moon until the drive is ready. As Junseo began to change their course, Jiho's voice came through once more. One more thing, Tae-yang. Remember at the academy when we both wanted to be the best? I always thought I was competing against you, but now I see we were pushing each other to be better. Tae-yang smiled sadly. I see that too, old friend. Good, Jiho replied. Now go save our species. Dauntless out. The transmission ended. On the screen, they could see the Dauntless accelerating directly toward the Voidborn command ship, drawing all enemy fire away from the Perilous. As the Perilous moved behind Triton, the crew watched in silence as the brave ship and its captain continued their hopeless battle, giving everything they had so that humanity might have one last chance. Behind the safety of Triton, Neptune's largest moon, the crew of the KSS Perilous worked frantically to prepare the stellar fold drive. The ship hummed with energy as power was diverted from all non-essential systems. In the engine room, engineer Mireille wiped sweat from her forehead as she checked the core readings. The experimental drive was heating up faster than expected. Next to her, Science Officer Do-hyun frowned at his tablet. The quantum field is unstable, he said, pointing to a flashing red number on his screen. The drive wasn't designed to be activated this quickly. Mireille nodded. I know, but we don't have a choice. She tapped on her control panel, making small adjustments. We need to keep the field balanced until full power. If it collapses early. She didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. They both knew that if the drive failed, humanity's last hope would die with it. On the bridge, Captain Tae-yang. Song paced back and forth, his eyes fixed on the main screen. From their position behind Triton, they couldn't see the battle directly, but the ship's sensors could still detect energy readings. The flashes of weapons fire told a clear story. The Dauntless was still fighting, still buying them time. How much longer? Tae-yang asked. First Officer Kyung-soon checked her panel. 19 minutes until the drive reaches full power, she reported. Tae-yang pressed his lips together. 19 more minutes seemed impossible. The Dauntless couldn't hold out that long against so many enemy ships. Captain, called communications. Officer Jinnah. We're receiving a broken transmission from the Dauntless. Put it through, Tae-yang ordered. Jiho's voice came through the speakers, but it was hard to hear him through the static and explosion sounds in the background. Perilous, Voidborn command ship, charging main weapon. Estimate 5 minutes. You need to plan. The transmission cut off. Try to get them back, Tae-yang ordered. Jinnah worked at her station but shook her head. I can't, sir. There's too much interference. Tae-yang turned to Navigator Junseo. Show me the Dauntless's position. The screen changed to show a tactical map. The Dauntless was surrounded by enemy ships. Its shield readings were critically low, and the massive Voidborn command ship was moving into firing position, a growing energy signature at its center. If that main weapon fires, Security Officer, Hyunwoo said, it will destroy the Dauntless instantly. And then they'll come for us, added Navigator Junseo, his young face pale with fear. Tae-yang thought quickly. They couldn't stay hidden. If the Dauntless was destroyed, the Voidborn would find the Perilous before the drive was ready. But if they revealed themselves, they would be attacked too. We need a new plan, Tae-yang said firmly. He tapped his communication panel. Engine room, this is the captain. How fast can you get the drive to at least partial power? Mireille's voice came back. We might be able to reach 70% power in 7 minutes, but it won't be enough for full effectiveness. It will have to do, Tae-yang replied. Prepare for 70% activation in 7 minutes. He turned to his bridge crew. Here's the plan. We're going to come out from behind Triton and draw some of the Voidborn ships away from the Dauntless. We'll split their forces. Sir, Hyunwoo objected. Our weapons are minimal. We can't fight, like the Dauntless can. We don't need to fight well, Tae-yang replied. We just need to be a distraction for 7 minutes. If we can do that, Mirai can activate the drive at partial power. And then what? Asked Kyung-soon. A partial activation might not be enough to stop the Voidborn. Tae-yang looked at each of his crew members. Then we'll have to get creative. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to enter battle. Our mission is to distract the enemy for 7 minutes, while the drive powers up to 70%. After that, we improvise. The crew moved to their battle stations. Tae-yang sat in the captain's chair, fastening his safety straps. Navigator, plot a course that will take us past the edge of the Voidborn fleet. We want to draw some of them away, not engage the main ship directly. Course plotted, sir, Junseo replied. Weapons, power up all available systems. We won't do much damage, but we need to look like a threat. Weapons online, sir, Hyunwoo confirmed. Tae-yang took a deep breath. Let's go. Full speed. The Perilous moved out from behind Triton, its engines pushing to maximum power. It raced along the edge of the battle, its few weapons firing at the nearest Voidborn ships. The plan worked almost too well. Nearly a third of the smaller Voidborn vessels broke off their attack on the Dauntless and turned to pursue the Perilous. We've got their attention, Hyunwoo called out as the first enemy shots hit their shields. Evasive maneuvers, Tae-yang ordered. Keep moving. Don't let them get a lock on us. The Perilous twisted and turned through space, its civilian-designed hull not made for such movements. The ship shuddered and groaned as Junseo pushed it to its limits. On the main screen, Tae-yang could now see the Dauntless directly. The brave ship was heavily damaged, parts of its hull torn open to space. But it was still fighting, still drawing the main Voidborn ship's attention. 4 minutes until we can activate at 70%, Kyung-soon reported. Just then, the ship rocked violently as an enemy shot hit them directly. Shields down to 40%, Hyunwoo shouted. Keep moving, Tae-yang ordered. We just need a few more minutes. On the screen, they saw the Dauntless suddenly change course. Instead of continuing to dodge enemy fire, it was now heading directly toward the Voidborn command ship. What are they doing? Junseo asked in confusion. Tae-yang understood instantly. Jiho's seen our plan. He's going to ram the command ship to disable their main weapon. The bridge fell silent as they realized what this meant. Captain Jiho Park and his crew were making the ultimate sacrifice. 2 minutes to drive activation, Kyung-soon said quietly. The Perilous took another hit, harder this time. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. Shields at 15%, Hyunwoo reported. One more direct hit and we're done. On the screen, the Dauntless was now very close to the Voidborn command ship. The enemy vessel's main weapon was glowing brighter, nearly ready to fire. Engine room status, Tae-yang called. Mirai's voice came through, sounding strained. The drive is destabilizing. The quantum field is fluctuating too much. We can't hold it together for 2 more minutes. Tae-yang's mind raced. They were so close, but running out of time. Suddenly, a new transmission came through. It was Jiho, his voice calm despite everything. Perilous, this is Dauntless. We're going to hit their main ship in 30 seconds. The explosion should disable their weapon temporarily. Do you have a plan? Tae-yang gripped his chair tightly. Our drive is unstable. We can't hold it for the planned time. Then don't, Jiho replied simply. Use our explosion as a catalyst. The energy release might help stabilize your quantum field. Do-hyun looked up sharply. He's right. If we time it exactly with their impact, the energy wave could actually help us. Can you do it? Tae-yang asked. Do-hyun nodded. I think so, but the timing has to be perfect. Tae-yang turned back to the communication. We'll do it, Jiho, and thank you. For what? Jiho asked. You're the one who's going to save humanity. No, Tae-yang replied. We are, together. There was a moment of silence, then Jiho's voice came through one last time. It was an honor serving with you, old friend. Remember Earth. The transmission ended. On the screen, they watched as the Dauntless engines flaring at maximum power, headed straight for the heart of the Voidborn command ship. 10 seconds to impact, called out Navigator Junseo, his voice shaking. On the main screen of the KSS Perilous, everyone watched as the Dauntless sped toward the Voidborn command ship. The damaged Korean warship looked tiny next to the massive alien vessel. Captain Tae Yang Song gripped the arms of his chair. Engine room, prepare to activate the drive exactly when the Dauntless hits. Ready, Captain. Engineer Mireille replied from the engine room, her fingers hovering over the activation controls. Science Officer Do Hyun's eyes were fixed on his readings. The quantum field is still unstable, but it might work if the timing is perfect. 5 seconds, Junseo counted. The bridge of the Perilous fell silent. Every crew member held their breath as they watched their sister ship make its final approach. 3, 2, 1. The Dauntless slammed into the side of the Voidborn command ship at full speed. For a split second, nothing seemed to happen. Then a blinding flash of light filled the screen as the Dauntless's engines exploded. Now! Tae Yang shouted. In the engine room, Mireille slammed her hand down on the activation control. The stellar full drive hummed to life, the sound rising quickly to a high-pitched whine that filled the entire ship. The explosion from the Dauntless sent a powerful energy wave through space. When it hit the Perilous, the whole ship shook violently. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. The quantum field is stabilizing, Do Hyun called out in surprise. Jiho was right. The energy wave is helping. On the main screen, they could see that the Voidborn command ship was badly damaged from the Dauntless's sacrifice. A huge hole had been torn in its side, and its main weapon had stopped charging. But the smaller Voidborn ships were still attacking. The Perilous. The ship rocked again as enemy fire hit their failing shields. Shields down to 5%, shouted Security Officer Hyun Woo. Drive at 65% and climbing, Mireille reported. We need 1 more minute. First Officer Kyung-soon looked at the tactical display. We don't have a minute, Captain. Our shields won't hold, Tae Yang thought quickly. Navigator, take us closer to the damaged command ship. Junseo looked back in shock. Closer? Sir, that's suicide. The smaller ships are afraid to fire near their command ship, Tae Yang explained. If we get close enough, they might hold their fire until it's too late. Junseo nodded and changed their course. The Perilous turned and headed straight for the damaged Voidborn command ship, just as the Dauntless had done minutes before. As they got closer, the attacks from the smaller ships did begin to decrease, but the command ship, despite its damage, was trying to turn its remaining weapons toward them. 30 seconds to full drive activation, Mireille reported. The command ship is locking weapons on us, warned Hyun-woo. Tae Yang watched the distance, closing. They were now very close to the massive hole in the command ship where the Dauntless had hit. Suddenly, an idea formed in his mind. Navigation, can we fly into that hole? Into the command ship? Junseo asked in disbelief. I think so. But why would we? Do it, Tae Yang ordered. Take us inside. The young navigator's hands moved quickly over his controls. The Perilous changed course slightly and headed directly for the gaping hole in the side of the Voidborn ship. Captain, Communications Officer Jin-ah said nervously. Are we ramming them too? No, Tae Yang replied. We're using their ship as a shield. Once we're inside, they can't fire at us without hitting their own ship. The Perilous slipped through the hole and into the interior of the Voidborn command ship. They found themselves in a vast open space filled with strange alien technology. 15 seconds to drive activation, Mireille called out. All stop, Tae Yang ordered. The Perilous came to a halt, floating inside the belly of the enemy vessel. Through the windows, the crew could see alien figures running in panic. The Voidborn looked somewhat like humans, but taller and thinner with gray skin. They didn't expect this, First Officer Kyung-soon observed. 10 seconds, Mireille counted. Tae Yang looked around at his crew. They were all tired, afraid, but determined. Whatever happens next, he said. Remember that we did this for Earth, for all humans everywhere. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drive activated. A strange humming filled the ship, growing louder and higher until it was almost painful to hear. Then suddenly the interior of the Perilous began to glow with a soft blue light. The quantum field is forming, Do-hyun shouted over the noise. It's working! Outside the ship, the blue glow expanded outward in a perfect sphere. It passed through the walls of the void-born command ship, causing the alien material to twist and warp strangely. What's happening? Asked Jun Seo, his eyes wide. The drive is creating a bubble of distorted space-time, explained Do-hyun. Everything, caught inside, will be affected. The blue sphere continued to grow, reaching out beyond the command ship to encompass the smaller void-born vessels nearby. As it touched each ship, they began to twist and stretch like images in a funhouse mirror. The field is stable at 70% power, Mireille reported, her voice filled with disbelief. It's actually working. On the main screen, they watched as the void-born ships caught in the field began to fade, becoming transparent like ghosts. Where are they going? Jinna asked. Not where, Do-hyun corrected. When. The drive isn't just moving them through space, it's sending them through time as well. Forward or backward, I'm not sure. So they're gone? Hyunwoo asked. Yes, Do-hyun confirmed. They've been removed from our time. They can't hurt us anymore. A cheer erupted from the bridge crew. They had done it. Against all odds, the experimental drive had worked, but Tae-yang noticed something concerning on his display. The field is still expanding, he said. How do we stop it? Mireille's voice came through, suddenly worried. We can't. The drive wasn't designed to be shut down after activation. The field will continue to grow until it runs out of energy. And how long will that take? Tae-yang asked. Hours, maybe days, Mireille replied. By then it could engulf half the solar system. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Their victory was turning into a new disaster. We need to get the drive away from here, Tae-yang said firmly. Navigator, can we still fly? Jun Seo checked his controls. Yes, sir. Engines are still working. Then set a course for the outer solar system, maximum speed. We need to get as far away as possible. As Jun Seo plotted the course, First Officer Kyung-soon moved closer to Tae-yang. Sir, she said quietly, if we take the drive out there, we won't be coming back, Tae-yang finished for her. I know. He looked around at his crew. I won't order any of you to come. This is a one-way trip. If you want to use the escape pods, now is the time. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then, Security Officer Hyunwoo stood up straight. I'm staying, Captain. Me too, said Navigator Jun Seo. One by one, every crew member made the same choice. They would stay with their ship, their captain, and their mission. Tae-yang felt a lump in his throat. Thank you, he said simply. Then he straightened in his chair. Set course for the edge of the solar system. Let's take this drive as far away from Earth as we can. As the Perilous turned and accelerated away from Neptune, leaving the fading void-born ships behind, Tae-yang looked at the photo of himself and Ji-ho that he had brought to the bridge. We did it, old friend, he whispered. We saved Earth together. 1 year had passed since the battle near Neptune. On Mars, humans worked hard to rebuild their civilization. The Red Planet's underground colonies had survived the void-born attack and now served as humanity's new home. Inside the main colony, Dome, a memorial ceremony was taking place. Hundreds of people gathered around a large stone monument. On it were carved the names of the brave crews of the KSS Dauntless and KSS Perilous. Among the crowd stood Min-ho, the former engineering officer from the Dauntless. He was one of only 3 survivors from the ship, rescued from an escape pod after the battle. His left arm was now a prosthetic, a reminder of what he had lost. They're starting, said a soft voice beside him. Min-ho turned to see Yoon-ji, the former medical officer of the Dauntless. She had been in the same escape pod along with a young technician named Yoon. They were the only ones who had made it off the ship before Captain Ji-ho Park had ordered the final attack run. The colony's leader, Governor Shin, stepped up to speak. 1 year ago today, humanity faced extinction. The Voidborn had destroyed Earth and most of our colonies. Our future looked hopeless. He paused, looking out at the crowd. But 2 ships, the Dauntless and the Perilous, changed everything. Their brave crews sacrificed themselves so that we might live. Minho felt his throat tighten. He still remembered the moment when Captain Park had ordered him and the others to the escape pod. Someone needs to tell the story, Ji-ho had said. Someone needs to remember. Governor Shin continued his speech, but Minho's attention was drawn to a commotion at the back of the gathering. People were turning to look at something. Whispers spread through the crowd. What's happening? Yoonji asked, standing on tiptoes to see. Before Minho could answer, the crowd parted and a group of people walked forward. They wore strange clothes that looked worn and patched many times. Their faces were tired but determined. At their head walked a man Minho never thought he would see again. Captain Song, he whispered in disbelief. It was indeed Captain Tae-yang Song of the Perilous. He looked older, his hair now streaked with gray, but it was definitely him. Governor Shin stopped, his speech mid-sentence, staring at the newcomers. Who are you? He asked. My name is Captain Tae-yang Song of the KSS Perilous. Tae-yang replied. His voice was rough, as if he hadn't used it much in a long time. And we have returned. The crowd erupted in confused noise. The Perilous crew had been presumed dead, heroes who had sacrificed themselves to save humanity. Minho pushed through the crowd, Yoonji following close behind. When he reached Tae-yang, he stopped, not sure what to do. Then, without thinking, he saluted. Engineering Officer Minho, sir, from the Dauntless. Tae-yang's eyes widened in surprise. The Dauntless? There were survivors? Just 3 of us, sir, Minho replied. We were ordered to the escape pod before the final run. Tae-yang looked at Minho for a long moment, then returned the salute. Captain Ji-ho Park was always thinking ahead. Governor Shin finally recovered from his shock. Captain Song, we were told your ship took the stellar fold drive to the edge of the solar system, that you couldn't shut it down. That's correct? Tae-yang nodded. We flew as far as we could, trying to get the drive away from populated areas. But something happened that we didn't expect. He gestured to his crew to come forward. Minho recognized some of them. First Officer Kyung-soon, Navigator Jun Seo, Engineer Mi-rae. They all looked changed, older than they should be after just 1 year. The eye drive created a bubble of distorted space-time, Tae-yang explained. We were caught inside it. For us, it's been 10 years since the battle. A gasp went through the crowd. 10 years while only 1 had passed for everyone else. How did you survive? Someone called out. Engineer Mi-rae stepped forward. We managed to modify the drive to create a stable pocket within the distortion field. We lived inside that pocket using the ship's systems to recycle air and grow food. It wasn't easy, but we survived. And the Voidborn? Governor Shin asked. Are they gone for good? No, Tae-yang said grimly. That's why we fought so hard to return. We've learned things during our time in the distortion field. Things about the Voidborn, about where they came from, and about where they'll attack next. He turned and nodded to Science Officer Do-hyun, who held up a small data device. We found their ship logs in the wreckage that was pulled into the field with us. We've spent years translating them. The Voidborn are not gone, Do-hyun explained. The ones who attacked our solar system were just the first wave. There are more coming. From a place they call the void between stars. The crowd murmured in fear. After all they had lost, after all they had sacrificed, the enemy was still coming. But there's hope, Tae-yang said firmly. During our time in the distortion field, we learned things about space and time that we never knew before. Engineer Mi-rae has redesigned the stellar fold drive. We can build new ones, better ones, and this time we'll be ready when the Voidborn return. He looked out at the crowd of survivors. We lost Earth, but humanity is still here, and we will fight back. Minho stepped forward. Sir, there's something else you should know. He hesitated, then continued. 3 months ago, our deep space probes detected something near Earth. At first we thought it was just debris, but it was moving under its own power. A ship? Tae-yang asked. Minho nodded. We sent a small team to investigate. They found the KSS Dauntless, or what was left of it. It had somehow survived the explosion, though it was badly damaged. And inside? Inside what? Tae-yang pressed. Inside was Captain Ji-ho Park, alive. Tae-yang staggered slightly as if the words had physically hit him. Ji-ho is alive? How is that possible? We don't know, Minho admitted. He was in some kind of stasis. The ship's emergency systems must have activated. He's still recovering, but he's been asking for you. Take me to him, Tae-yang said immediately. Minho led the way to the colony's medical center. Inside a private room, they found Ji-ho Park sitting up in bed. He looked thin and pale, but his eyes were alert. When he saw Tae-yang, he smiled weakly. You're late, Ji-ho said. I've been waiting. Tae-yang moved to his old friend's side. I got a bit lost in space-time, it happens. Ji-ho laughed, then winced in pain. They told me what you did, how you saved everyone. We both did, Tae-yang corrected. But the fight isn't over. The Voidborn are coming back. I know, Ji-ho said, his face turning serious. While I was in stasis, I had dreams. I saw things. I know where they're coming from now, and I know how to stop them for good. Tae-yang looked at his old rival, now his closest ally. Then we'll stop them together, just like before. Ji-ho nodded. Just like before, but this time, we'll both make it back. Outside the medical center, the people of Mars continued their memorial ceremony, not yet knowing that it had turned into a celebration of return rather than remembrance. Humanity had lost much but gained something vital: knowledge, experience, and leaders who had faced the impossible and won. The Voidborn would return, but this time, humanity would be ready. And at the forefront would stand the crews of the Dauntless, and the Perilous, once rivals, now united in a common cause. The stars had once been humanity's dream. Now they were humanity's battlefield, and humanity would not go quietly into the night.